Hello there, and welcome to a series of videos that I am making to demonstrate my CD collection. I've been collecting CDs by a lot of people I've liked for, I would say about 15 years or so. Most of these I get at a substantial discount. I don't like to go out and spend a lot of money on CDs. So, I wait till stores discount them or I find them used or whatever. And today I am talking about Steely Dan. Walter Becker and Donald Fagen. A lot of people like them, but I don't know if they like them the same way that I do. This is their first album, Can't Buy a Thrill. Love that collage cover with a big lip. Reminds me of Rufus. Anyway, this is part of their 1998 reissue series. There's the back. There's a CD. And there's a picture of the band in 1972. As you can see, they had 6 members. Danny Diaz, Jeff Skunk Baxter, along with them. This album had a big hit with a song called Do It Again, and another song called Reeling in the Years. Those are big oldies radio hits today. There's also another song on here called Dirty Work. I think they played that on the old Drew Carey show once. Anyway, this is it's a pretty good album. A little rockier than most Steely Dan. Sounds a little bit like a jazz fusion version of Three Dog Night. But they were an MCA, and the liner notes in here even admit to the fact they were a little green. But pretty good debut overall. Now this is their second album, Countdown to Ecstasy. This cover is always a bit odd. It explains a little more about it inside. This album is considered to be the best of Steely Dan's early career, according to the liner notes by some very interesting people. This is again from the 1998 reissue. Here's the inside of the CD. Picture of the band. That particular time it was now down to 5 members by that point. This album is a little jazzier and begins their period of being more funky. They started out with a song called Bodhisattva, which is kind of a jazz rock number. But there's also songs on here like Razor Boy and King of the World. It's a very much more jazzy album than the first. You can see them stretching out, trying to make more melodic compositions. I mean, they're really getting more to be Steely Dan here. Their production is getting more, slick and sleek and less raw as it was in their first. This is probably the first Steely Dan album I ever heard on my father's vinyl, so I got it on CD. Pretzel Logic. Now, this is the final album by the big Steely Dan band. That's the inside of it. There should be a picture of the band in here if I could open it up. Maybe you could see it. But here we go. Here is Steely Dan at that particular time. Michael McDonald was also part of the lineup on this particular record. Let me put all this stuff back here. Kind of sticking out. This album has some great songs on it. The hit was Ricky Don't Lose That Number. I mean, we've all heard that before. It copies the opening of Horace Silver's Song for My Father to a degree, Dun, dun, dun. I can't sing it. I'm off key. Dun, 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 dun. There you go. Anyway, I'll shut up. Anyway, great songs on here. Night by Night, Monkey in Your Soul, the title song, Any Major Dude Will Tell You. It's a good transitional album from their big band, more jazz rock oriented period to their later music. This is the end of the big band version of Steely Dan. Now this is Katy Live. This is their 1975 album, by which point they were the Steely Dan as they function today. A band with Walter Becker and Donald Fagen, featuring session musicians. They weren't touring or maintaining a full band at this time. They were flying solo with session artists. And this is from the 1990 reissue series. As you can see, it's got the compact disc, compact price, name of the artist on it. It's got that back with the kind of Art Deco graphics that they had on a lot of MCA CDs on the first run. Honestly, this album gets a lot of praise, but I feel it's the least consistently Steely Dan of all their albums. They're very, very poppy on this one, using a lot of effects, but, you know, the jazz, the rock, the pop, it never really comes into focus as much here as it does on Pretzel Logic, but it's a pretty good album. It's grown on me a little bit, but it's transitional. That's just my feelings about it. This is one of my favorite Steely Dan albums, and it's another sleeper. This is again from the 1990 reissue. See that? In this case, the purple Art Deco back. This is the Royal Scam. This is where they started to develop the Steely Dan sound, that signature sound we know them by today. A lot of, heavily produced keyboards and multi-layered vocal harmonies from Donald Fagen. There's some wonderful songs on here. Kid Charlemagne, The Fez, Green Earrings, Don't Take Me Alive. I can just go on and on. And primarily, when it gets right down to it, even though they're talking about a lot of characters you just don't want to know in these lyrics, this album is pretty much a dry run for Dum 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 Asia. Asia. Now this is from the 1998 edition. As you can see, it's got the big Asia writing on the CD. This is Steely Dan's classic. You can turn on any radio today and hear songs like Deacon Blues or Peg, Josie. You know, these are very famous songs. This is kind of a hit parade album for Steely Dan. This is the debut of the Steely Dan sound. I don't think I have anything more to say about Asia that hasn't already been said. So, pretty much a classic album. They even got a classic album DVD made for this. Should have won a Grammy, but didn't. Steely Dan eventually did, but I'll get into that later. A couple years later, actually several years later, they followed up with Gaucho. The majority of this, I think, was recorded in the late 70s, but they released it in 1980. This is another wonderful album, very similar in style to Asia. It's got Babylon Sisters, Hey 19, Time Out of Mind, Glamour Profession. You all know these songs. This is the essence of Steely Dan. It's the essence of the Crusaders. It's the essence of jazz, pop, funk, California, New York studio. I love it. Steely Dan were inactive for many, many years, but they came back in 1996 with this album, Alive in America. It's a live rendition of some of their songs. I'm very impressed by this. You know, even though they didn't record a studio album at this time, Walter Becker and Donald Fagen were in rare form. All that perfectionism, attention to detail, and spunkiness of Steely Dan is all still here. And this began their comeback, which came with Two Against Nature. This won a Grammy for the, I believe it was Best Album of 2000. Really, really shocked me. Steely Dan never won for Asia, but they won for this. Open this up. I always love that picture. Very creepily kitschy. And you open it up and there's that field again. There's some great songs on here. Janie Runaway, Gaslighting Abbey. You know, Cousin Dupree is a very distressing song, and you listen to it, but, yeah, Steely Dan for you. They can really, get you thinking about things sometimes. Things that you don't want to think about. It's an excellent comeback. This is Steely Dan's most recent album from 2003, Everything Must Go. See the guy with the stolen watches. Some good songs on here, like Pixeline is a good one. Again, this album is like Katie Lied in a way. It basically is the sound of Steely Dan, but their musical language just isn't there. The songs aren't as well developed melodically, I don't think. I think it relies a lot more on sound than it does quality songs, but that's just me. But Donald Fagen put out a new one this year, and I can see that there are better roads ahead. So that's my Steely Dan collection for now, and stay tuned because there's more to come. Thank you.